Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. To the groove and the light that flickers. We get lost in the crowd, it's getting thicker. We get away from the drinks and chatter. Haven't said a word, but it doesn't matter. Feel the air get thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. Live your life within the moment. And don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. The air get thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. So let us dance this night away.
Good evening and welcome to Be More Super Live. I'm Brian, your host, joined by the wonderful Dan the Man. Dan, how are you, my friend? Are you okay this week?
Yeah, not so bad. I'm excited about our guest tonight, if I'm honest, Brian. There's an element of I didn't know I would have never watched this show had it not been for doing this show. So I've kind of, the people watching on a Wednesday night that have watched us over the last year would have noticed that that you've witnessed me become a fan over time of this show, and I'm giddy, if I'm honest.
Do you know
I'm a little bit
it
giddy.
Just makes a change that I've actually suggested a show to you, and you've actually liked it because. You literally should be a professional critic because you could watch the nicest, most beautiful movie in the world and still think it was rubbish. So I'm really pleased that Halo for you has been a hit, I've got to say. And we're going to keep on keeping this show alive, even though season 2 is finished and we're waiting for potential news for season 3. So our wonderful guest tonight is definitely going to keep this show alive. And then on the 20th of April, I've got Justin Howell, who is Master Chief stunt double, which is awesome. And I sort of geeked out because he told me what he was working on at the moment, which he's the lead stunt double for Superman, for James Gunn.
Oh, wow. You'd have had a proper nerdgasm at that.
I am, and I'm going to do my best to try and get my hands on some merch from the movie. But we also we've got a surprise for our viewers and followers. Normally we only do a live show on a Wednesday, but tomorrow at 8:00 we've got another live show, and it's with Doug Jones from Star Trek Discovery, Mr. Saru, Commander Saru. Well, it's Mr. Saru now, so I cannot wait. He's coming back on the show again, and he's such a lovely man to chat with. But let's get our guest on. So our guest is not only starring in currently Halo on Paramount Plus as Cortana. I've got to be careful. I keep on saying Cortina. It's Cortana, which I should get a T-shirt with the
Yeah.
image of our guest with Cortina at the bottom and see if anyone notices. But she's also a West End and Broadway star, starring in Bat Out of Hell, Heathers, Phantom of the Opera, and Showboat. It's wonderful. Christina Bennington. Christina, welcome to the show, my love.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, honestly, when I talk about names, I always get them mixed up. So, I'm sure there's lots of Halo fans out there right now cringing at the fact that I've just said Cortina instead of Cortana. But thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's funny, whenever I got the job, a lot of my family members started calling me Cortina as a joke.
Brilliant.
Really? There you go. So it's
You
not
knew.
just me.
You knew, Brian.
Excellent. Well, you know what? Before we talk about Halo, which is this amazing show, and I've followed it and supported it since season 1, I want to find out a bit about your musical theatre background, because when I say your musical theatre background, it's not just a few things. You have done so much stuff; it's unbelievable. So for anyone that's seen you in Halo and don't realise, literally, you're a bit of a West End and Broadway legend in my eyes, which is wonderful. And we want to talk about that. But I want to find out what initially drew you into this sort of industry, because it's one of the most competitive up and down industries to get into. I mean, what was it that sparked that for you?
It's interesting. I do think musical theatre specifically has a competitive energy as well that other maybe acting disciplines don't. I started singing when I was obviously a child, a baby. There's lots of annoying home videos. It's infuriating. Um, Awful. Sorry, parents. And I always knew I loved singing, but I did a lot of classical stuff. I did a lot of opera, which actually has worked out because I've now been involved in a lot of sort of TV opera based things eventually. But I went to see Mary Poppins in the West End. And
Wonderful show.
and I just was like, I don't want to be an opera singer. I think I just want to be Mary Poppins. And ever since then, I always wanted to do musical theatre. And I did just kind of say, I'm going to do that. And that is an incredibly privileged thing to say, in that, like, I just said I would do it and I did. But essentially, is my naive, childish 12-year-old view was very much like, I'm going to do this. And I did, yeah.
I mean,
You should have seen the things that Brian and I were going to do. You know, I was going to be an astronaut millionaire, and Brian
Yeah,
was
of
going to be
course.
an international boxing superstar. So, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
And
mean?
you've both
But
achieved.
yeah, exactly. You've got to aim high and just hope for the best. But Mary Poppins, amazing show. It really got me confused, because it's definitely not like the film when you go and watch
Yeah,
it.
no.
It's more based
Mm.
on the P.L. Travers book, and especially when he does the tap dancing upside down. I just think it's
Yeah, fantastic.
fantastic around
Yeah,
that
it's
stage.
really different. There's loads of swearing. There's loads of like racial connotations. There isn't really. I've not seen it.
It's very wonderful. It's very magical, especially as a child, when you see for the first time that kind of like, oh my gosh, theatre is kind of cool. And I know that's maybe not what you
Mhm.
would think of when you think Mary Poppins, but that is what I thought at that time. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, can you imagine doing that as a job?
Well, you know what? My
Mm.
girls are 10 and 6, and they both want to be on stage. So I don't know what I need to prepare myself for, but I took them to their first ever musical literally a week and a half ago, and it was
Oh,
Shrek.
what was it?
Oh, what was
Shrek
it?
the musical.
Oh,
And honestly,
Surprisingly very good. Surprisingly
Yeah.
really
Oh,
good. I properly
it is
enjoyed it.
it is amazing, absolutely amazing. The kids' faces, I was looking at them. Honestly, it was just magic, and that's the key, isn't it? Is going to see and getting that bug and thinking to yourself, I want to be on stage one day. But when we talk about competitiveness, I mean, it's got to be quite hard. I mean, what keeps you driving forwards? Because, you know, other actors and other dancers, they can be a peculiar bunch where they can pretend to be your friend 1 second. I mean, I've been in Pineapple Studios and I've been in the cafe part, and literally, honestly, it's like ice cold, and you could feel the daggers from a mile away. I mean, how do you keep driving forwards? I mean, is it still like that, or has it changed?
I mean, I haven't done musicals for a little while now, but I think on the whole, most people are super nice. Most people are lovely, and any competition comes from people making performers, and mostly students at drama schools, feel like they need to be ruthless or that being nice is not going to help them along the way. I really genuinely do blame training for that,
Mm.
because people come out of there thinking, if I don't elbow people out of the way in a dance school, I'm not going to get anywhere. Whereas nobody wants to work with someone like that. You're going to get a job because you seem nice to work with, and you're not going to make drama for everyone. It is a job, so you
Mm.
want to like your colleagues. So I don't like, it can be like that. It really can be, and it is part of the reason that I stopped doing musicals for a little while.
Mm.
But I don't think it is as bad as people think. And if it is, it comes from the top. I always say, like, if the lead in a show and the director and the producer lead with kindness, everyone else does. If one person up top rather doesn't, then it tends to trickle down. So
And when you obviously audition, I want to talk about auditions, because you get the bad, the good, and the ugly, and I'm sure that you've had your experience of all of those. I mean, can you give us an example of like one of the best auditions you've had? Like literally, you've gone in and what tell us about what you actually did, and how did it go?
ooh, I remember actually a really cool audition experience. I didn't get the job in the end. It was when I auditioned when I was quite a lot younger for The Commitments. And it was
Mm.
at, I can't remember what theatre it was at the time, but the final audition was to sing on stage. And that is actually more rare than you would think. It doesn't happen very often. So singing, all those incredible classics like Respect and stuff
Mm.
on like an empty stage in this massive theatre, just thinking this is my dream job. I mean, I didn't get it, but I really enjoyed the experience. And I think that's, again, it's like sometimes people just make the experience fun. So it doesn't really matter if you don't get it.
Oh, do you know what you should have? I used to be in a Commitments tribute band, and
Did you?
and yeah, and
Should have
we
dapped him
actually
up, Christina. Should have got in touch.
and
He'd have given you
literally
all the
we
pointers.
we 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 travelled. I mean, we sang with Edwin Starr in Cannes, south of France,
Wow.
Mad.
and yeah, and and we sang with Andrew Strong a couple of times, who's the guy
Wow,
from the
that's so
actual
cool.
movie. On
Yeah.
like a but yeah, enough about him. He wasn't very nice, but anyway, divas. So yeah,
I,
so,
I tell you what, I go right. I just want to know. So Christina's telling us about an audition that she enjoyed, and
Mm.
Christina, I'm going to tell you a story now, and I hope this has not happened to you. But Brian and I have got a friend called Mikey, and he does another does another podcast. You can listen to it if you want. It's okay. And he was telling us about this experience he had at an audition where he was I think he was about 20 years old, was he, Brian, or something like that,
mm,
and he walked into a room and it was just a tripod with a camcorder on it and a guy sat there,
Mm.
and the audition ended up him stripping down and doing star jumps. Was that the
yeah.
audition, Brian? Have I got that right? You've not had any dodgy ones like that, Christina, have you? I mean, bear in mind, this
Mm.
question's me just to out Mikey on that story on a bigger audience, but you know what I mean? Have you had any horrid experiences from
A lot
auditions?
of
I
silly
guess is the
ones.
question.
Loads of silly ones. Loads of when I don't really do them anymore, but I used to do loads of commercial auditions, and they're so
Hmm.
silly. But they're never like inappropriate silly, but you just think, oh, this would make total sense on the day. On set, I'd be
Yeah.
fine doing it, but for some reason in this small room with one person, it feels so crazy. I did one time where I had to like sing in French, and they were like, okay, just walk up this imaginary ladder, and you're like walking over the streets of Paris and write a song, like improvise a song, and can you make it French? And then it will be in French a bit. And I remember just being like, oh God, like, okay, sure. Um, but
Wow.
it's always the ones that you can look back and laugh. So it's fine. It's fine.
Have you ever had to do the quick speaking at the end of adverts? I've just got into voiceover adverts for some of the
Yeah.
for various podcasts and radio stations,
Mm.
and I've had to do the quick speaking bit at the end. You know what I mean?
Oh,
The
yeah.
bit that goes,
It's
"We'll take
fine.
away your dog if you don't keep up the payments," and that type of thing. Have you had to do any of that yet? Because that's hilarious.
I haven't, but I always notice those because it always goes offer excluded in Northern Ireland. And I always, because I'm from Belfast, I just always hear that. It's always like available everywhere except Northern Ireland. every single time.
Look how great this offer is, but you can't have it. Ah!
Boy.
So let's talk about some of the shows that you've been in, because you know, they're all incredible. I mean, Bat Out of Hell. I mean, Meatloaf. Who doesn't love Meatloaf? Bless him. He's a legend, and he'll always will be. Sadly, I never got a chance to see this musical, and I'm gutted because the music in it just sounds amazing. I mean, you went from the West End and you took it to New York, which must have been such a mad experience. So not only were you in the West End, but then going to New York. What was that experience like? Because that must have been quite, you know, a lot of pressure on you to actually take it to another country.
Yeah, it was really mad. You know, I was really young when I got that job, and to sing the hits of Meatloaf to diehard Meatloaf fans was really intense. And it really did set me in good store for a couple of other jobs I've done very recently. In that it was something that was there was so much pressure from everyone. And then, you know, had an amazing time getting to know these fans and the musical theatre fans. And we started in Manchester, actually. And that's when we started with like a crazy fan base. And these people traveled with us to London, to Toronto, then to New York. So they would come see the show everywhere that they'd seen in Manchester. Wow. And there were like many iterations of the show, but it was just an incredible learning curve to bring, like, I am going to try and sing some Meatloaf songs that everyone has absolutely got like very many ideas of how they should be. And I also sang All Coming Back to Me Now, Celine Dion, every night. So that's like, also I'm doing Celine Dion. So everyone, when they'd hear the introduction, they'd hear the
sing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would just hear the like, and everyone in the audience, when we went to America, we went to New York, it had never happened in London. They'd all go, oh. Yeah. And then you were like, okay, I'm going to need to sing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
did you notice a difference between the crowd? Did you notice a difference? Because I went to go and watch a show called, I think it was called Betrayal. It had Daniel Craig in it and Rafe Spall. Sure. And when I watched that on Broadway, there's a real rousing speech by Rafe Spall, you know, talking to his side chick, as it were. I think it was who was the lady from the Mummy movies? Vice, Rachel Vice.
Yeah.
Hell of a show, hell of a cast. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's like, and he leaves the last word just hanging in the air. And I felt like that there was this like ripple through the audience of this real nervous laugh that the American crowd did. But then when they clap and when they cheer and when they sing along to, I went out there and I also watched, the four guys on the street, the jackets. Oh my God, I can't believe I tipped my tongue.
What, Jersey Boys? The Jackets? Is that what you're talking about?
Jersey Boys, for God's sake. Yeah, thank you. I went to watch Jersey Boys. When they cheer, they cheer. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they will sing along and they will go nuts. Mm. Did you feel that in the audience a little bit, the difference between the two? Because we're quite reserved and there's an element of expectation, isn't there?
Well, Belfast audiences are notoriously really loud. So when people go on tour, they always say like the Irish audiences, actually, and to be fair, no offense to England or the south of England, but when you go up north, loud. When you go Scotland, loud. You know, we started in Manchester, so we were used to like super reactive Manchester audiences that really just want to tell you they're having a good time, which was perfect for the show. Yeah. So they kind of set the tone, and then the show was a fairly loud show the whole time. But New York, the thing they did that nowhere else did was they would like clap and scream when you hit big notes, which was so funny and like really nice. I would like hit the big belt note on like All Coming Back to Me Now, and I would hold it for such a long time. There would be like 2 rounds of applause during the note. And I was like, thanks guys. It was really nice, but that was the main difference. So like all the audiences were super loud in different ways, but the new thing in New York was like you would get singing technique cheers, which was like really fun.
It's instant feedback, which I you know, is very, very, it's very good. I mean, obviously being in New York, how long was you in New York for? And did you
4
enjoy
months.
being in New York?
Yeah, it was wild. I lived basically in Times Square. Crazy. There were only 2 British people in the cast, so they brought over 2 of us from Britain, and then someone from the cast who was American who'd been in the original show. So I was in a super American cast, in literally living in Times Square. But theater is different there in many different ways, both good and bad. But one thing that is very strange is it feels so much more mainstream. So like I get recognized all the time everywhere. People be like, "Oh, you're that girl from Bat Out of Hell," because we were on these big billboards in Times Square. And even if people hadn't seen the show, everyone, even if you didn't really go to the theater, seemed to be quite tapped into what was on at the theater. And I feel like it's a more niche hobby in London. You don't really know about it unless you go to it.
I mean, do you get like many like sort of? I mean, obviously, I've seen videos of you by the stage door and signing autographs and everything like that. I mean, have you had any like sort of unusual fan encounters? I mean, you know, the fan base of theatre, they are very passionate. I mean, I know people that literally go to these fan conventions for theatre stars. So what is that experience like coming out the stage door? Because you know, it can be a weird experience because it's literally you've just finished a show, you know, a 2-3 hour show, you're tired and you come out and you just want to go home, and then you get presented with crazed fans with their programs. I mean, what's that like?
When I did Bat Out of Hell, I would often spend like an hour at stage door every night.
Oh,
And
wow.
I really liked it. At that time, I was living close enough that I didn't have to like catch any trains home, because I think a lot of people find it stressful because they're like, "Oh, my work is finished. I don't get paid any extra to stay." And sometimes fans can make you feel like you should stay. But most people don't, and they're really nice. And it's kind of strange because obviously no one in my family does this. And my brother's a software engineer. And I was like, imagine if I just clapped for you at the end of your shift, you know? And I was like, that was really good. But it is just a strange thing because some days you do really feel like, this is just my job. Why are people being so nice about it? And you feel kind of an imposter syndrome of like, I just did the thing I'm paid to do, and literally I liked it and someone paid me to do it. So I already feel like I've won. And then when people are giving you extra congratulations, you sort of don't really feel like you've earned it. But most of the time you're able to just be like more aware of what theater can be for people. And like there's so many exciting things that happen at stage door that are so weird and cool. Like you meet someone who's like, my mum, you know, sung with Meatloaf in 19, and you're like, oh, that's crazy. And they show you photos. Or people have asked me to write stuff and then they get it tattooed.
Wow.
That's happened, which is cool because I'm like, wow, I just think the transformative power of art is really overlooked sometimes, and what art and theater and TV and films can actually mean to people. And I am recently discovering games also, is kind of powerful. It's just really cool, and it's you know, me going up the arts, but like very much if people can be that passionate.
Sorry, you were saying what? You were saying what? I misheard that. You were saying what?
But do you know what? Do you know what? I hope that you've got a great signature, because all the stars that I like, that I, you know, if I thought, do you know what, I'm going to get a tattoo of their autograph, literally they've got rubbish autographs. So hopefully you've got a very beautiful
I
one
do, you know.
that
I
you know.
do.
Did you practice it?
No, more people will get lyrics tattooed, so they'll like ask me to write out favorite lyrics from something and get that tattooed. So it's not as personal to me specifically. It's more about the show and the kind of. But I always get worried. You know, when you sign things indiscriminately all the time, I just think, gosh, people could really forge my signature because I'm just giving it out left, right, and center.
Oh, it's your proper one then. So it's not your
Yeah, no, like, I'm not-
showbiz one.
I'm very much not like, you know, thinking I'm a big enough deal to have a separate signature. I'm just
Well,
signing
You're
stuff.
gonna need one now, Christina.
Yeah.
You know, a bit of word of advice. You might need one now. I mean, you know, Brian and I used to work at a holiday camp, and we used to get asked for our signatures all the time, and I had to sit and practice one. Did you write your real one, Brian, or did you practice one?
No, I did my real one.
Get a credit card, everybody. If you've got a brochure from the 2000 Butlins brochure, Skegness, get it. You can get a credit card under Brian's name. There.
Good luck with
Safety
that,
first, everybody.
because my wife's got all my money, so you know what I mean. But I mean, talking about projects, I mean, you've done so much stuff in the
Mhm.
West End and Broadway. But is there a
Mhm.
sort of a production that you would give your right arm for to be part of, or a role that you'd absolutely love to take on? Because you know you've played Christine in Phantom of the Opera, you've been in
Mhm.
Heather's Veronica, which, by the way, my wife absolutely loves that musical, like literally. But
Mhm.
I didn't realize how
Mhm.
sort of maybe not suitable for kids it is, because I put it
Sure.
on one day for the kids and I
Mhm.
thought, well, my wife likes it, but I soon turned it off quite
Yeah,
straight away.
it is
Um,
not quite.
no, yeah, it's not Shrek. So, is there a role and a production that you'd love to get involved with if you had the chance?
Mm, I really love the current West End production of Cabaret. I think that would be
Mhm.
really cool to do Sally Balls. I've played a lot of teenagers, and I'm quite famous for playing teenagers. And don't know if anyone's noticed, but I'm actually not a teenager. And I think it would be nice to play something more close to my actual age range, myself, my energy. So something like that would be very cool. Or if I
Cabaret.
could go back in the past, in my very recent past, I did this show called Sing Street. Have you seen the film?
No.
Sing Street.
No. Yeah, it's the same people who did Once, same team as Once. And I did 2 workshops of this show where I met a lot of my best friends and actually my boyfriend. I met him on that job, but 5 years ago. And we are all too old to do it now. But it's about these kids who form a band to impress a girl. And the first workshop production that I did of that to a room of 15 people is the best thing I've ever been involved in my life. Like that one moment in time, that one magic thing, which would probably never be the same again, you know, if you did it in a grand scale and the show has had other life and stuff. But that, if I could go back to that time and do that workshop production, that's like my
Mhm.
dream role, even though I kind of already
Oh,
did it. But only 15 people saw it.
Yeah,
It was fantastic.
that's an
oh no.
absolutely wonderful way of looking back on it. But I tell you, it is. I saw Heather's last year
Mm,
in the West End.
mm,
I was I'll not lie to you, because I'd seen the movie prior, and I was a little
mm,
bit shocked at how good the show was, because
mm.
the movie is a solid 4 out of 10, and that, that's being generous. It's a really weird little movie, and and
It's
and,
a
and I
cult
must
classic.
admit, I both me and my missus watched this movie and went, why why did they even bother making a show out of this movie? But it's actually the show is so good. Like
Yeah.
the movie that it's based on now does it a disservice a little bit, if that
Mm,
makes sense. And if anybody does get the opportunity, especially people watching this show that Brian constantly brings up that I don't like anything, this show specifically is I genuinely really enjoyed. And
mm.
to play the lead character in that one, Christina, that's not too shabby, is it?
It's a big thing. I didn't leave the stage for about 2.5 hours, I think. You get 1 3-minute break,
Yeah.
which was pretty intense. And it was the first thing I did coming out of lockdown.
Oh
We were one
wow.
of the first shows to reopen the West End. So we opened in the Haymarket, which is a massive theatre. We opened with a third capacity. And I had no stamina. I hadn't sung in like 2 years. And it was really, the first couple of weeks were really tough because it was just such a huge thing. And then after a couple of weeks, your voice just remembers. It's like any muscle. Like if you haven't run in ages and someone's like, go do 20K, it's a big shock. So, but then I did settle into it and it was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Do you know what though? You should do Cabaret. It's one of my favorite musicals. I was in Cabaret when I was younger. I played Clifford Bradshaw,
Mm,
the American, and music in it. But I want to go and see it in London because it's at the.
mhm.
Is it the Café de Paris?
It's
Is it?
at the actual theatre is now called the Kit Kat Club.
Right.
Very good.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course.
It's an excellent production. Highly recommend
Uh,
to everyone.
Brian, before we go into the sponsors' messages, because I know that's where you're getting it from, I'm going to need you to do the American accent that you did in the show.
Oh no!
In
No!
which
No!
show?
No!
In
No!
in your cabaret show? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Brian's cabaret show, American accent. Give me a line out of the show, Brian.
Okay.
I will fill for
Okay.
another 10 seconds for you while you think of something to say. But I am very excited to hear this. And
Okay.
I'm going to want the big line. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Come on,
Okay.
hit me.
Oh,
Gonna have to
Sally.
clap, Christina.
Right there. Oh, Sally. The only way you got a job in this town is by sleeping with somebody. And the only way you're going to get a job in New York or Paris or Rome is by sleeping with somebody else.
Come on!
Fantastic.
That is, it's supposed to be from
enjoyed it.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, but literally that accent
Yeah.
is all over the, it's mid,
It's wonderful.
you just go
Yeah,
for it.
I thought you were going to drop in a "Forget About It" at one point. I thought that was on the way.
Forget about it. Right, we're going to do the sponsors message. So, Christina, we'll be back with you in about 30 seconds. Don't go
Can't
anywhere.
wait.
Right, so this is the sponsors message.
Good
I
God.
normally have a video, but I still can't find it. So Prop Store are our wonderful sponsors again for this year. So if you're after a screen-used piece of costume or a prop from your favorite movie or TV show, this is the place to go. So propstore.com. They've got some awesome auctions coming up very, very soon. And me and my friend Dan over here is going to go down in November again and put our hands on some very expensive props like we did last time.
What if I wanted some money off, Brian? What if I wanted some money off? What's
you
the
know
code
what?
if I
It's
wanted some money off?
It's very simple. It's just Brian10.
Brian,
Use the
tell me again,
code-
Brian!
Use the code Brian10 at the Buy Now section on the website, propstore.com, and you get 10% off. That's 10% off anything at the Buy Now section, which is over 5,000 products from your favorite movies or TV shows.
Brian's telling you for 10% off, it's Brian10. It's not a difficult code to remember. I'm seriously still shocked that, you renewed the contract with them last month and we've still kept with Brian10. But the more I think about it, Brian, stay with it. Stick with what works.
Yeah, you know what? Exactly. It's simple, a bit like me. And Brian10, 10% off. Right, let's go back to Christina. Christina, let's talk about
funny.
Halo. So it's all right. It's fine. She's like texting going, oh, someone save me. Someone unplug the internet. No. Halo Season 2. What an
Yes.
absolute season. I cannot believe it's ended. Oh, my
know.
God. You know what? It's just such a great show. So how does someone go from stage to becoming Cortana? I had to really be careful then, Cortana. How did the role come about for you? Because it's an incredible role, to be honest. It's quite iconic.
Yeah, to be such a big part of the IP of this incredible franchise is quite surreal. It hasn't really sunk in yet. It's very strange. I've been doing TV for quite a few years, mostly. I'd kind of moved away from musicals before I got this call. And when I taped for it, I was told it was for a different part. So it was for they disguised it by saying it was just an AI. And I remember doing the tape and I got a recall. And I had this meeting and then, with one of the producers on Zoom and the writers, Tom, who's really lovely. And we had this really nice chat. And they kept saying to me, we really love you. They were kind of like, you have a lot of strange experience for this role, because I'm sure people watching this know that it's kind of a first for TV. 2 actors working together to play one part. Has never really happened. And stage experience comes in really handy for that, because I have both created roles and then handed them over to other people, leaving them with lots of presents and being like, love you, thanks, take care of her. And I have also taken over roles from other people, and I've experienced what that's like, and when people make it a nice experience and a not nice experience. So it was really important to me to come in with great respect for the franchise, with great respect for what everyone else was doing. And also because I've also been a part of quite a few things with very passionate fan bases. I really love engaging with fans, and I know a lot of people find it, and I know that a lot of people have been finding it really funny that I'll comment on when people troll me, I'm like, bring it, it's funny, and I enjoy engaging with fans, and I know that there's been so much love that's really, really nice, and it's actually just nice to get to know a whole different group of people. Anyway, long story short, I was told I was in the final 2 or 3 for this. And then when I got the job, they were like, by the way, as soon as we saw your tape, it was only you. We just told you it was other people. They were like,
Naughty.
immediately, it was you.
But I
It's
mean,
amazing.
how much did you know of the Halo world before joining? Did you have to do like a crash course into all the knowledge base of the franchise? Because personally,
Mm,
I've probably played the game once and I'm rubbish at it, so I never played it
yeah,
again. But this show is just, really resonated with me massively. So for
yeah.
you, how much research did you have to do before, or did you know the game? Did you play the game?
I knew the game. I played it a bit at people's houses when I was younger, but we didn't have an Xbox in my house. Um, so I hadn't personally like done the campaigns fully start to finish. You'll be pleased to know I do now have an Xbox and I'm playing Halo start to finish.
Did you
I'm
get
not
that
very good.
Xbox given to you, or did you buy
I was
it?
going to
No,
say, did you pay for
I
it?
bought an Xbox
What's that?
because I
Xbox gave it,
respect
yeah?
the franchise. It's bad.
What?
I was like, I simply must buy an Xbox and play the games. Although I actually didn't do that previous to starting the job. When I had
Mm.
my recall, I watched series one, and then I watched when I got the job. Oh, actually, no. I also I read Fall of Reach, the book, before my final audition, because I wanted to know like the origin story of everything and of the world. And then once I got the job, I watched all the game campaigns from start to finish. You know that people cut them together as films. They're fantastic.
Yeah, the fan
Oh
films.
yeah,
Oh,
that
they're just
They're so
that,
good.
that was my entire research for before we spoke
Yeah.
to Vanek the other week. I was
Yeah.
like, yep,
I
yeah,
watched
I'm
the
gonna
game
just gonna watch
campaigns
all this. Done.
start to finish, and it was really cool because, obviously it was like I'm going to be working with Jen Taylor, who has voiced Cortana since the beginning of the games, and it's really interesting to hear like her life as a voice artist as well. So obviously she starts younger than me when she's
Mhm.
doing the voice, and now she had her 50th birthday on set,
I think I've got
and
a
you
picture
can,
here of you both. There you
yeah,
go.
there we are.
Oh.
Cute. So it was nice to watch the game campaigns from start to finish and sort of not feel intimidated by it. And actually, one of our exec producers slash directors said on one of the maybe middle of shoot days, he was like, I cannot tell the difference between your voice and Jen's voice. I cannot tell. And I was like, I'm an
Ooh.
actor. That's the goal. So I learned her speech patterns and her physicality patterns and stuff by watching all the game campaigns, and now I'm playing. But it's really interesting. Like, I don't know how much you know about her history with the game, but Cortana is kind of made up of hundreds of people's input, obviously because people are drawing her. But before she was mocapped by Jen, a couple games in, there were a couple games where just like everyone would decide on her physicality. So it was more like a hive mind from people rather than it being all Jen. So she has helped me find who Cortana is. I came in with some of my own things from reading stuff, and then there's hundreds of other artists who created her throughout the games, looking every single time. It's actually just all of it seeps in, and that's how you prepare, is by respecting the people who've done it first.
There's a really good thing that Cortana does, and it's kind of like she delivers like an inferred raised eyebrow or some kind of tone where she's telling you, do you know what? I don't agree with that, you absolute nutcase. But we're gonna have to big fat do it anyway. But
Yeah.
it's just in a little look or a little side eye. I think it's absolutely, because she's an AI generated sprite, for lack of a better term. I think that the way that Cortana does that is absolutely wonderful. And thank you for capturing that really well, because again, I had no prior knowledge of this game. I was one of those grown-ups that didn't game, because Brian and I are from Mega Drive years, and then as soon as you put that away, it don't really ever come back out again until we all got back into PlayStations about 10 years later. And then we went, I can't run and shoot at the same time. I just missed Sonic 2. What happened? So we all just put that away. And then doing this show, Brian suggested, and he's made me watch some great movies actually, but Brian suggested watching this show, and the difference between season 1 and 2 we've spoke about a lot on this show, and I've genuinely enjoyed the shift in tone. There seems to be a lot more peril involved in this one, because the first one is setting the characters up, and then as soon as the
Mm,
Spartans turned up, that everybody was just going to get their backside handed to them. But
mm.
this one, there's some genuine peril, and Cortana's in and around that peril as well, which I really enjoy. That must be nice to get your teeth into something like that, right?
Yeah, my favorite bit to do as her was in episode 6 when she's basically in 3 places at once. And I think that's when we see the best of
Hmm.
Cortana, when she's talking to 3 different people. She's with Mickey, she's with Master Chief, and she's with Parangoski, and you're not quite sure as a viewer, neither of those people are quite sure on whose side she actually is on
Mm,
at that point.
Hmm.
How much of what she's saying is for that person, because obviously she is not human, but she's fascinated by humans. She voracious for knowledge, curious, finds them, exciting, interesting, and loves them, loves humanity at the end of the day. Um, so she knows how they work. So it's interesting to watch her toy with and play and manipulate to try and achieve her goal with 3 people at once. And when we were talking about those scenes,
Hmm.
it was very much like she's, you know, holding focus, holding court at the same time in 3 places, which was really fun.
awesome episode. Really, really good
Mm,
episode. I mean, am I right in saying that when we see Cortana on screen in season
mm,
2, like every time we see her on screen, you're actually there in person
yeah.
because we see you in that suit.
Oh,
I think I've got. Let me just have a look. I have. There we go. So
I
we've
should have
got
known that. I'm
a
really annoyed
picture
I didn't
there.
know that.
There
Okay,
you go.
actually, there.
So
I
yeah,
just
Yep.
assumed they superimposed you in
with
after.
Charlie
Yep.
Murphy. She's incredible in the show as
Hmm.
well. I mean,
I
what's that
love
like
Charlie.
actually? Oh, she's fantastic, isn't she? Um,
Mm,
what is that like actually being? I mean, how does it work actually? Because,
mm.
so you're in that suit. Have you got cameras on your face to actually get that motion capture of you? I mean, how does it all
So
work?
it's
Because
not mocap. It's really different to how things are mostly done. So I was VFX body scanned, like how you would if you were doing any major, like, kind of superhero film. So you go in and there's 300 cameras around you and they capture your face doing every kind of expression possible. And then they have like a couple of tracking dots on me, and then they can basically overlay what you can see down here this way, this kind of blue version of myself just on top of what I actually do. So that's a very simplified version of it, but basically they're not creating things from scratch. They're molding and manipulating what actually happened when I was there. And when we did, especially, I did loads of scenes with Charlie. And the reason, well, she's obviously amazing and talented and lovely. But the thing I find so impressive about her performance is in order for the VFX to work properly, they always had to do a clean take. So we would do a really intense scene, like nose to nose. And then we would have to do another take without me there, but she would have to do it exactly the same so that we could make sure that, for editing purposes, it made it easier. And she would be able to focus on nobody being there. But it looked, that's so hard to do, to look at nothing and make it look like you're
Mm.
looking at someone there and not just like into the distance. So that was difficult. And you'll see the lights on the suit here. They were only an idea that people, because obviously this had never been done before. No one had any idea how we were doing it. There was like a million ideas. And Wojciech, who was the head of VFX, would, have new ideas all the time. So the first 2 scenes I did, which are my first day was with Joseph Morgan. And we did that scene in series 2, or in episode 2. And that was my first day. And I had no lights on the suit. And you can actually tell if you watch it because my face looks slightly different because I'm not uplit. So I'm just.
So we are back live now. So I do apologise for everyone that thought we were frozen. We just decided to have that 3-minute break that Christina was talking about, on
Yeah,
the stage.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? but yeah. So you were saying about obviously the lighting and everything like that, and the
Mm,
scenes with Joseph Morgan and how differently
Oh, well
they.
done. Well
I know.
done. That was impressive. I was like, where were we? What were we doing? And Christina's
very
did a really good
different.
point about being up late, wasn't she? Well, Brian, that was impressive. I'm impressed at you there,
I
sir.
know.
Well done.
I know.
He's such
I
a
do listen,
professional, isn't he?
Dan.
He's such a professional.
I know, I do listen, and then obviously the change as we could see in
Mm,
the picture. I mean, it must have been incredible with being in all the scenes that we see Cortana in, that you're around this incredible sets, which must
Mm,
be absolutely jaw-dropping. I mean, what was that
yeah.
experience like being around this amazing work?
Yeah. Well, that was the most mad one, actually. That photo, like, as you can see, because I have no hair and like just soldered lights onto a suit, that is just what it looked like on the day. It was just a massive spaceship. I was like, this is crazy. Like, there was no part of that that looked like they needed to finish it off with VFX. It just looked like exactly what it was meant to. Obviously, there's bits where I'm, throwing visions up and things. That was not real. Um, but a lot of it was, and it's just really impressive. And all the departments, like the team is just so big. You're such a small cog in such a big thing when you're on a show like this. And it's really exciting because it's honestly just about teamwork. There was 1,000 people in the building, I was told.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
1,000 people.
I mean, the great thing I like about this show is how much sort of everyone that we've had on from the cast and the crew, in front of the camera and behind, on how great the environment was and how supportive, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like one big family, which is really nice to hear because you hear so many
Mm-hmm.
horror stories of directors and people that may not be as nice to their cast and crew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned earlier on about trolls, and I just want to put something out there. I want to put my view on things. Is that I've got friends that won't watch Halo because Master Chief takes his helmet off, which I think is ridiculous. This show is obviously an extension of the game, and it's an adaptation and interpretation of the story in the eyes of the creators
Mm-hmm.
and the producers. And I actually prefer the look of Cortana in season 2 than in season 1, hands down. I just think that it brings something to it, actually having, more of a real human face and
Mhm.
being there. I felt a lot more connection with Cortana this season compared to season 1. I mean, obviously, you say that you say bring it on to the trolls. I mean, what sort of positive feedback have you had around playing Cortana? Because the fans are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's been loads of positive stuff. There's been loads of positive stuff because at the end of the day, it helps everyone else's performance as well because Jen capped after the fact on season 1. So there was no body for anyone to play with. At times, people were looking at, a ball on a stick or just a person or a little tiny model of Cortana, which still exists. Tamash, who is from VFX, showed me it. So there was loads of them. Really cool. So for the actors to have someone to play off made the whole thing more exciting. It made the show feel, I think, more grounded. And that's not me saying my performance did that. I think David, the showrunner, is really smart
Mm,
to have realized that that would bring a whole extra element for everyone else. Especially like Cortana and Master Chief is such an incredibly important relationship
mm,
in the game. And speaking about, the game not being exactly like the show, I think what's amazing is the books also, like Fall of Reach. You don't hear those super wordy descriptions everywhere in the game, and yet
mm,
it's still so much a part of the lore in the world. And I just think that TV is a different medium than a game, and the book is a different medium again. So it's kind of exciting that you can explore a larger universe with it all. And if you were going to make it exactly like the games, just play the game
mm. Yeah,
at that point.
exactly. I mean, obviously, everyone's got an opinion, which is fine. But my opinion is this show is amazing. And when we're talking about season 3, have you heard any rumblings at all about a potential season 3? Because someone played an evil April Fool's joke, which actually really upset me.
Oh, did
Because
they?
April Fool's to me is sort of putting cling film over a toilet. Do you know what I mean? But no,
Sure.
someone put a post out saying that Kiki Wolfkill has announced that there's no season 3, and she wants to thank everyone and everything like that. And I didn't know if it was real or not, and I posted it on my Instagram saying, "Please let this not be real," and I tagged Kiki on it. But have you heard any rumblings about potential season 3?
I haven't heard anything yet. Your guess is as good as mine, I'm afraid. I would love to see another season. Never mind, do another season because we can't leave it there.
No,
The
exactly.
flood.
No.
So when I saw that comment, I thought, no, how can we leave it there? And talking about leaving it there, the scenery. Where did you shoot that? Was it like Italy or somewhere like that? Because it looks spectacular. I've got
Yeah,
a picture here of you and Master Chief. I mean, it's not a
yeah.
bad gig, is it? I mean, that must have been like a working holiday, surely.
That was so funny, that exact moment when we were shooting that scene, because Pablo can hear almost nothing in that suit, like almost nothing. And I would do really elaborate sort of like curtsying and dancing for him and just being really silly. And I would always think he was responding, and then he'd be like, I still can't hear you. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you're just doing silly little dances while we look at the Julian Alps. So insane. Yeah, it was we went to this little town called Bovec in Slovenia, and we brought a couple hundred people from the cast and crew and took over the whole town. It was really, really wild. And because it depended on who was in those scenes as to who was there. So I had an incredible week with like Kate Kennedy is a good friend, and Charlie and Pablo and Victor, who plays the arbiter. And lots of us brought like partners, and we all just had like a big holiday in the Julian Alps. It was so fun. And that was the lake is Lago del Predil, I think, in between. It's on the border, Italy-Slovenian border in the Julian Alps. Oh, there we are.
Wow. So yeah, so it is a working holiday, which is incredible. I mean, what was it like working with Pablo? Because he's like he's on my bucket list of guests to have on the show. Absolutely think he's an incredible actor. I really do. I
He's
mean,
so
what
cool.
He's on the front list of mine, if I'm honest, Brian. I mean, look at it.
He's massive. He's massive. He's massive. And he is genuinely the kindest person to work with on set. He's so sweet and nice. And he has this incredible habit, which I guess you can if you're the number one. Like, it'd be kind of weird if anyone else did it, but it's amazing that he does it. He always has a boombox. And in between takes, he always puts on really loud music for everyone, but he always knows exactly what everyone wants to listen to. So it shouldn't be his job, but he makes it his job to bring vibes. Like, no one is down when Pablo's on set because he brings energy. He is always the one who's like ready to go for the longest. He's got the most energy, even though he's working the most, and he's carrying the biggest suit. And that for me is a true no. Like, he's so sweet, will talk to anyone who is coming in for any part. And obviously he knew I would be really nervous coming in to do Cortana, and he went out of his way to find me, and actually out of his way to talk to me about something not about the job first, because I teach Pilates, and he's done quite a bit of Pilates. So he was like, I want to talk to you about, you teach reformer, I've heard. Like, that's cool. And, you know, it kind of met me on a level as a friend first. Even though we were doing the first day, I think I met him. Or maybe I'd met him briefly in passing whenever he was doing his stunt work and I was on set. But I think the first day I really met him was when we did that scene in episode 6.
Wow.
Where we're coming together again for the first time. So that was kind of cool as well.
I mean, I've always wondered, after shooting a show like this, does a WhatsApp group exist? Do you know, like a group chat of like Halo season 2? And
I'm sure there are various, but the weird thing is, I think a lot of people don't know, like, I haven't met loads of the other series regulars because of the way shooting dates fall. You're very often not in the country at the same time as anyone else. I am really close with a couple of the cast, and you know, like Kate and Charlie and stuff. But you kind of end up maintaining a lot more. And actually, Natasha comes to my Pilates studio. I love her so much.
wow.
She's so fantastic. I love her. And everyone is just really nice, but you tend to maintain more personal one-on-one relationships unless, like, I'm sure, in fact, I think I do know, I'm sure the Spartans have one because they were like training together all the time. Very different. My schedule was very odd compared to everyone else. And because Cortana's so much in isolation or just with one other person, You don't really do big crowd scenes. There was no one, I never really met anyone from the non like Spartan, that side of the world. Like I actually never met Christina Rodlow, you know, who's such a massive part in the series. We never crossed paths the
Oh,
whole
what?
time, which is really
Oh.
strange.
I mean,
And
did you not
you
have
just
a premiere or anything like that for the show?
No, we didn't actually,
Ah,
strangely. I think they had a fan screening in LA, and I
mm.
got an invite like a week before, being like, if you happen to be in LA. I was like, I'm not in LA.
I'll
Thanks,
check my calendar.
Um, I wanted to
but
ask as well that you sent some photos, and I
yes.
noticed this on social media as well of
Mm,
the wrap of the day. I think when the day got
it was so
when the
good.
shooting got wrapped. I mean, can you tell us what's happening in this picture? Because
It was
that's obviously
so
David, the
funny.
show runner with the helmet
Yeah,
on.
such a
So
crack.
what
It's
was
so
going
funny.
on here? Because you can just feel the testosterone and the alpha male in. You know what I mean? It's
I
like,
know, and
Manly
obviously
thing.
everyone was so surprised that I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to do it, and I'm going to stand right behind Pablo. I was like, do you know what Cortana's job is, guys? Um, I understood the assignment. It was so cold.
Yeah.
Pablo had been saying all week, all I want for my birthday from you all is for you to jump in this lake. And we've been like, okay, it's not going to happen though. And on the last day, like the schedule was really tight and it kept raining and then stopping raining. So we had to like stop and start quite a few times because the light was looking so different. And it was so cold. It had been really sunny all week and suddenly it was freezing and it was raining. And everyone was like, there's no way we're going to do it. Pablo, being the leader that he is, managed to get someone with a drone camera, like one of the camera operators, and was like, hey, this is my plan. Can we do this in 1 hour? Like, as in an hour from now. Like, one take. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Here's my shot list. This is it. Then he just literally briefed everyone on a microphone and we just did it. He was like, this is what I want you all to do. Okay, everyone understand? And everyone was like, okay, whatever you want, sure. And I think there was quite a few people who didn't do it. Obviously, when you see the zoom out of the drone, you
yeah,
see
I've
all the
seen the
other people
video.
standing, being like, "You crazy, crazy kids."
You've got to do
It
it.
was
You've got to do it, and it's
so
for his
fun.
birthday as well, which is incredible. I mean,
Mhm.
did you manage to keep any mementos from?
What did you?
Oh no,
I have frozens. Oh, there, no, I'm
you
back.
no, you're
Um,
back. You're back.
yeah, no, I didn't steal anything. I wouldn't dare. Not much for me to steal. Actually, what was funny is I was going to ask for one of the wigs at one point because when we tried out wigs, I have loads of photos somewhere, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share them, so I didn't send them to you, of all the different wigs. It's so funny. Like all these different bobs. So crazy. And then, I did it once for reference, and then I just never wore them again and just did it with a wig cap. So I was as surprised as anyone when I saw at the end. I was like, oh, I didn't have a clue what my hair was going to look like. It's all out of info. And I was going to
so
ask if I could keep one of the wigs, but I didn't.
so you
Ah,
didn't manage to keep the outfit or anything like that. No.
No, actually, the outfit is such a funny story because that was not made for me. That was made as like a potential other version of Cortana in season one, like a different plan or like a body double or something. And I got cast, and no one asked me what size I was. Like, that was,
hmm.
which actually very progressive of them. I actually really rated it that they were like, that doesn't matter, you're the best actor, you're getting it. And then I arrived at the costume fitting, and Jane came in and she was like, we've only got one, and it was made by the guy who made the Spider-Man suits. We can't get him again. There's no time. Let's hope it fits.
Wow.
And it was
Wow. And it's just perfect.
exactly, exactly. And it was so funny. Everyone was like, wow, we really didn't have another plan if that didn't work.
It's like a Cinderella moment. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
it fits. I'm
Yeah,
definitely the one.
no one had another plan. It was so mad. And I was trying to learn, that was in my first couple of weeks, and everyone was chatting around me in Hungarian. And at this stage, I couldn't speak Hungarian yet. I can now, but I couldn't. And I was like, what are they saying? What are they saying? And they were all saying, like, there's no other plan. This better work. I now know. Um, yeah,
Wow.
that's my favorite fun fact that I'm like, I needed to tell you, is my Cortana fact that
Wow.
everyone on set said I basically am Cortana, because within 2 weeks of being
That's
there,
a.
apparently I've learned more Hungarian than anyone had ever learned.
There you go. You soaked it in like an AI, um, which is awesome.
Sonolog.
Yeah.
I mean, before we bid farewell, have you got any plans on maybe coming to any conventions? Because I know a lot of stars will come to conventions, meet the fans, sign the pictures, sign their arms for you to get tattooed now as Cortana. I mean, have you got any plans? Is that something that you would like to do, or
I
maybe
would
not?
really love to. I'd really love to because I just love meeting fan bases. I just think it's a really cool opportunity to engage with people who are making the art stay around. Like if people don't watch the show doesn't happen. So
Mm.
you kind of want to be at conventions to thank people for being like, thank you for making this still happen. Thank you for watching. So yeah, I'd love to. If anyone wants to have me, let me know.
There
I
we go.
like
There
art.
are conventions out there, like Monopoly events, that are very, very good. That obviously, I'm sure would love to have you at one of their
Also, I think
conventions.
it's obviously we have wonderful Jen Taylor, but there has never been a person who has been Cortana in like over 25 years of its
Mm,
existence. Like I think that's what actually is the biggest honor is like I'm the first person ever to physically
mm,
embody my actual avatar, the visage, if you will, because she's
there
looked
we go.
different
The
every single
bizarre.
time, never the same.
And if there's a season 3 and they ring you up, how fast would you say yes, or is that already in contracts in case there is?
It is in contracts in case there is, but I would say yes anyway. Yeah, I'd love
Oh,
to. Of course
that's
I would.
awesome. Do you know what? They need to get a move on, because obviously season 2 was announced before season 1 came to the
Mm.
screens. So I know there's a lot of fans out there that's looking forward to that announcement. But what's next for you? What are you working on at the moment? Music? Are you working TV, or is it a case of putting your feet up, Pilates, and going to the gym a lot? I mean, I
Very
mean,
much always the gym.
yeah. It just looks hard work, just seeing that you're at the gym, and I'm like, no, I can't go. I'm just worn out just watching. But
I've got to train if I'm going to be a Spartan one day. I like that's the thing I've
Right.
requested. We go for another season. I was like, I'm training with Spartans. They were like, you don't need to. I was like, I want to. It's different.
It's
Yeah, no,
anointed.
I've done a couple of fun TV projects that are due to be released soon. But at the moment, I'm just waiting like everyone else is to find out if we're going for another season.
let's fingers crossed, because it can't be too long, because we waited enough for season 2 from season 1,
I can't
and
wait.
there's so many characters that want to see what happens next,
Mm.
and where the story goes. But Christina, thank you so much for coming onto the show and chatting. I do apologize about the technical hiccups, but
Right, there.
don't go anywhere. We'll say goodbye properly in a moment. But everyone watching, thank you so much for bearing with us. We're back tomorrow with Doug Jones from Star Trek Discovery at 8 o'clock. So please join us for that and have your questions ready. So that's it. Farewell. Look after yourself and keep safe.